Hail, Internet! It's Paul. It's Matt. The Dork Lords. We are here today talking about Loki. Season 2, Episode 1. Ouroboros. Obviously, that's the name of Ke-Huy Quan's Short Round's character, OB for short. And it's a symbol of a snake eating its tail, symbolizing life and rebirth, infinity. These are themes that are certainly prevalent in the series. But also, I feel compelled to point out that the most famous, I would say, Ouroboros is Jormungandr, the Midgard serpent in Norse mythology. So it's the snake that encircles the earth. And in the non-MCU Ragnarok, Thor slays Jormungandr, but is in turn slain by the serpent's venomous blood. So, all that is to say, I like the name choice. It seems fitting for the Loki show. All right, we open almost exactly where season 1 left off.
Almost, yeah.
Almost, yeah. Pretty, anyway, within seconds, maybe. Mobius and B-15 do not recognize Loki and chase after him through the TVA. We learn that the reason they don't recognize him is that this is the TVA in the past.
Yes.
So it's not an alternate universe TVA.
As I thought it was.
As I thought it was too after season 1. So it's not that. It's just the TVA before our Loki originally arrived. Loki time slips into the future, realizes what's happening, in time to involuntarily slip away again. So he's involuntarily slipping through time around the TVA. We end with Loki, Mobius, and OB working together to apparently solve Loki's time-slipping problem. Loki saw a brief glimpse of Sylvie before his last time slip. She appeared to be trying to reach him, saying, "There you are." He's convinced they need to track her down. But General Dox, who we meet in this episode, is also intent on finding Sylvie, seemingly sending the entire army of TVA agents in search of her. We then get a mid-credit sequence in which Sylvie arrives in Broxton, Oklahoma, in a branch timeline in 1982. She orders basically one of everything from the McDonald's menu, which maybe begins the documentary Super Size Me. Maybe that's where they're doing it. No. Interesting, Broxton, Oklahoma in the comics is actually very near to where like the new Asgard is set in the comics. All that said, Paul.
Yes.
What'd you think of episode 1?
I liked it. I would give it a 7.
Okay.
So I thought it could have been better.
Right.
But the thing that stood out for me was, stole the show is Ke-Huy Quan as OB. He just, he was the best thing about the episode. Yeah.
It's like he was in there the whole time, like, oh, wow, yeah. Anyway, yeah, great.
Yeah, clearly, one of the notable things about the show Loki is that the makers of Everything Everywhere All at Once were approached or asked to take on the project of Loki, which they refused because they wanted to make their own story and have their own things going on. Okay. And so the next best thing, I guess, was getting Ke-Huy Quan in this episode.
Probably every episode, frankly. I don't know. I mean, he's I would say he's a central character.
You can't. So. There's no way to look at this episode and not see the influence of that movie.
Oh yeah. I give it an 8. I think I even give it a little bit higher than you. I agree that there's ways it could be better, but I really enjoyed the episode. I'm
starting to see now that you're competitive with me. You're always trying to outdo me.
What did you give
it, Paul? Basically, what he's telling you...
I gave it a 7.1.
Yeah. Basically, what he's telling you, Paul, he's like, love me. Paul's the evil one. He's the one who doesn't love you. It's me who loves you.
That's right. I was worried going in a little bit when I heard that the show had a new head writer and a new director from season 1, that there was a lot of changeover. But I really feel like the aesthetic is still there. The show's design, I think, is the most unique in the MCU. The look, the lighting, the soundtrack, the stylized performances. It's kind of like it's like a Men in Black meets Terry Gilliam's Brazil.
Yes.
Maybe a little bit of the Commission from the Umbrella Academy feel. But anyway, it's effective. It's enjoyable to watch. I felt like the pacing was pretty breakneck too. There was tension throughout, and the scene. There's a fairly large scene in the middle there where Loki's having a conversation with Obi in the past.
Yes.
It has instant effects on Obi in the future, and it reminded me of the recurring gag from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Yeah.
Wait, I know. When I go back in the past, I just have to remember to leave my keys under this trash can. Excellent. You're like, oh, yeah. That is funny. What the hell? Use the time. Use it. All right, that's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm always a little wary on time travel stuff, but, you got to embrace it for this show for sure. And they do, so I'm good with it.
Yes.
I liked that they presented a large season-long problem to solve, like the Kang variants are coming. But also a problem that could be solved in this episode. So Loki's time slipping. So I thought that worked. It wasn't just like, oh, we're just going to leave this thing in the middle and then go on. It was nice that they resolved a small problem knowing that there are bigger problems out there.
Yeah.
And then the chaos that's circulating around the TVA really has a, how can they possibly fix this quality to it, which is great. That's what you want from an episode 1. So, I'm all in. I like it.
The reality of it is this is all a problem they've created. And what I mean by that is, these, the time strands are all, they have to be culled. It's like, oh, who says that? Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
There are
What's
all
a
these
time strand?
Yeah. And it's like, oh, this is more than the system can handle. Like, okay, if you say so.
Okay. If you say so, right. The plot would be much easier if it was as a bigger time loom. Yeah. Oh, okay, great. Problem solved.
Yeah.
Yes.
I liked the imagery around Mobius having to, in that big suit that was just sort of, bits of him just sort of flying off as he sort of walked along.
Time is wearing it away, and he's gonna be his skin will get ripped off.
Yes.
Yeah, and he's got the huge tube attached to his back, as he walks out, and agreed.
Yeah, that was really
creative.
Well done.
It looked great.
Very reminiscent of Brazil.
Yeah.
I like the bit there. Owen having to accept that, in order to do this, potentially your skin will be ripped off. He was like, that was the most important thing to him. And for Loki, it was, wait a minute, what? It was a different problem.
And I mean, there are some quality comedic beats in here, and I'm not sure if it's the writing or the performance, but at the very least, the writing isn't getting in the way of the performance. So, like, for instance, there's the bit right around that same time frame, there's a couple of them where it's like, you have 1 hour, and like, crack.
Yes.
You have 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yes.
The moment where Mobius is in that big suit and he looks up to his left and he sees there's a crack in and he's like, is this cracked?
Yeah.
And then he just slaps some duct tape over it.
Yeah.
That's fine. So that's all great. That's great. I have no memory of having my memory wiped.
Yes.
So all that stuff, that's pretty damn good. And,
I agree.
It's hitting more often than it's missing when it comes to that. The bit where they have in the elevator where Mobius confesses that he was just lying about how, your time slipping's fine. He's like, I was lying. It's like you're being born or dying. And it's terrible. And then he's like, looks over, like, what do you think? And there's this woman standing in the corner. Like, anyway, that's all.
It's like,
it's all
leave
good.
me out of this, please. Yeah, all that.
Right.
Was good.
Comedy gold, baby.
Yeah. Yep.
The episode basically was Obi, Mobius, and Loki, and boy, that's all they needed, really. I mean, those three guys really carried the episode quite well. But there are a lot of other characters, and we didn't really see much of Sylvie at all. I mean,
we didn't.
Very little of her.
Just a little bit.
and didn't really see much, really at all, of Kang other than images of him.
Yes.
So I'm getting the idea that it appears that in the past, the TVA was more openly controlled by He Who Remains.
Mm-hmm.
So he had the statues of himself up and everything, and then at some point, he covered over his likenesses, and they made this idea of like, oh, there's gods. So he kind of took himself out of the equation.
Sure,
and he's done so many memory wipes.
Wizard of
all
Oz
the
did.
people, that nobody remembers that. So, except for OB, and we get the idea the reason that he actually still remembers things is because he was forgotten, basically. He's down in the basement. Nobody came down there. And so he actually does have a memory of the past. And he wrote the book. That's interesting. He wrote the manual, which will probably come in handy at some point. But anyway, so yeah.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get a backstory to him, about his early involvement.
That you could do a turn where it's like, oh, I was an evil Kang variant or something all along. Or like, just let him be that character. Like, don't...
Sure.
Let's not have him be somebody in disguise or something. I don't know. Like, I'm this all-powerful being who was pretending to help you, but actually, just leave him be. He's great the way he is. You don't need an extra layer of deception, which could be, but I hope not. So anyway, I don't think it is. I think they're smart enough to go like, no, this character is good just the way he is. We don't see these characters, but we learn that Ravonna Renslayer and Miss Minutes. They both seem to be in league with He Who Remains.
Sure.
Right? So we had there was a tape recording where we hear He Who Remains talking to Ravonna, making plans. And in the end of season 1, Miss Minutes was actually there in He Who Remains' castle.
Yes.
And so, and Loki brings it up here like, can we trust her? I don't know. She was hanging out. Anyway, so I'm just wondering, and then they're conspicuously absent during this chaos of the TVA.
Yes.
So, okay, early theory. This is not a eat something terrible theory, if I'm wrong. But I'll just go with something like, He Who Remains knew that his death was an option. If it wasn't inevitable, that at least there was a reasonable chance that he would get killed off by Sylvie. So he probably instructed that, like, if those were his followers, his trusted followers, he probably instructed them to institute some kind of a post-death plan, is my guess. And so they're fulfilling it. And, one thought that occurred to me is maybe oh my God, all the variants are coming. Maybe their job, again, this could be completely wrong, I have no reason, but is maybe to go and aid the most powerful Kang variant so that Kang variant could use the TVA to wipe out the other variants. It basically like a He Who Remains Junior, essentially. Like, hey, we can reinstitute this through, if you just find the most powerful one, help that one, and then wipe out the others. Maybe. I don't know. I'm just saying that that could be a way to, because somehow they're going to be antagonistic, I assume, towards whatever purposes Loki, wants.
Yeah, I don't know. Certainly, I shouldn't say certainly. It's possible that behind, part of the plan would be another wipe for everyone, so that they forget all that, right, and get back to the status quo, which is culling. Right.
And
that was one of the things actually about this episode that I thought could have been a little better. That conference scene with all the different, factions trying to decide
when they're
what to do.
Deciding whether or not to keep pruning or not.
Yeah, didn't work as well as I wanted it to. I wanted it to feel more, I guess, like Doctor Strangelove, and it wasn't quite there. I think some of the new characters are a little bit distinguished. That's good, but I think they could have gone further with those characters, and even I think Hunter, like B-15 and even Mobius could have been even more mannered or less certain, or
like, what's the right course of action is what you're saying. Like,
I think it could have been more confused or more. I think they could have gone further with that scene. I think perhaps I would have liked that scene better. I could have liked that scene better. I think it just needs a little more work.
Yeah, I do, though, like at least the idea that they introduced this notion of, like, wait, we were variants. we're like essentially getting rid of our own lives. So we should stop this. But then there's this other side of things, which is like, well, the whole reason we're doing it is to keep keep the sacred timeline, but keep the universe functioning essentially. So, is it the right thing or is it the wrong thing? And they're at the moment they're not doing any quote unquote pruning, but I like the fact that they're questioning at least, right? They're like, wait,
yeah, no, it's good that they're questioning. It's unfortunate that they don't have a lot of information really, and so they made a big decision, and it's better to have them back up the previous stuff. Like, okay, rather than just say no, we're going to go back to pruning, which would basically mean that all the things that happened before that meant nothing. So that's good that they didn't say let's screw that.
Right.
And if they're building something as a result of, okay, what's the new what's the new way of things now that we're not going to prune anymore? That's fine. Do we need to build a better loom or whatever? Who knows? Certainly it'd be nice for OB to make a new manual to address all these issues.
That's right. Well, and we're reminded that Mobius always wanted to be, on a jet ski or whatever, and so
that was one of the weird sort of that whole thing with him distracting him was.
Yeah, I feel like that the whole purpose of that scene was in a way to just remind us about that, like, oh, that's a thing, and that's probably because that's what Mobius was doing in his variant form before he was culled, and so I just feel like we'll probably get a call. Eventually, he'll be
sure.
Back and
yeah, thanks for reminding us clumsily.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I think that
I noticed. Thank you.
Yeah, right. Got it. Okay, pointed it out. Pointer
It's like one of the things that was interesting to hear from John Cleese about Faulty Towers, him and his wife, Constance Booth, I think it was that when they were writing Faulty Towers, is they made sure any plot points were as funny as possible so that people didn't know that they were receiving plot points. They just thought they were receiving jokes. And so when it came around where the things, happened again, you're like, oh, that we were really getting information. And that could have been more, funny. They could have hidden that better.
That show had some belly laugh moments for me back in the day. It's been a while since I've watched Faulty Towers, but I do remember one particular ending scene where the whole episode was basically Mr. Faulty thinks that he's catering to a hotel inspector.
Oh, yes.
For the whole time, a reviewer. And so he's like just bending over backwards to be nice to him, which is like really against his nature. And so he finds out that guy is in fact not a hotel reviewer. And so he just humiliates him in the lobby, just pie to the face, just like everything, dump stuff down his pants. And then because there's three guys waiting to check in. Yes. And then he realizes at the end, right as the credits are about to roll, that those are the hotel beds. Oh, Christ. That was great. That was a really, really fun moment.
Yes.
Anyway, we do know from the trailers that we're going to spend some time actually here in Chicago, Paul.
Yes,
coming
we
to
are.
Us.
That's true, they are, yeah.
They're going to come to the Columbian Exposition in 1893 to find the Kang variant Victor Timely, who we saw at the end of Quantumania. So I always like Chicago depicted on screen, so I'm interested to see how they pull that off.
Yeah.
But yes, we do have this McDonald's thing where it's like a little ad for McDonald's. But, I get it. I think the idea is that Sylvie, she looks around. She sees everybody just enjoying themselves and not being necessarily restricted or...
Right, yeah.
And so she's just like, I want to experience everything. I just want to live in a time and place where it's not a crisis, I think is the idea. And so, because she remember also in season 1, she had to pick an area that was about to get,
destroyed.
So
in order to hide.
She was always living on the brink of a destructive thing. So now it's just like, okay, fine. I'm at a McDonald's in Broxton, Oklahoma. Great. So, we'll see how that Sylvie from 1982 then is the same Sylvie or as we assume it's the same Sylvie. I don't know, maybe not, but that ends up trying to open the elevator, hit the TVA so somewhere she's going to make a decision to leave Broxton, and maybe go in search of Loki. In fact, I wonder if maybe the time slipping, because we don't know what the cause of it is. They threw out some possibilities.
That's true.
But I wonder if there's an external force, something like Sylvie, or something is trying to draw Loki to them or something. And so that was like, there was some way to do that. Now that he's fixed that problem, it's probably like oh, wait, now try something else now. Because there is that whole bit there. The phone's ringing, and then he sees her, then somebody, I think from behind, is the one who actually prunes him, which lets him, so we're going to see that kind of like a Rashomon thing, I think. I think we're going to see it from either her point of view or whoever pruned him to save his life.
Interesting.
Anyway, so I think we're going to see that scene again from a different point of view, if I had to guess. We will be back for episode 2. Yeah, good start so far. So
yes,
I like
definitely.
it. A 7 and an 8. I mean, hey, look at that. We're only up from here, Paul.
Good.
All right. Well, anyway, thank you as always, Paul. Appreciate it, good sir.
You're welcome.
And we'll talk to everybody next time. Bye.
Bye.